Good night, boa noite. No Reino Unido, aqui a gente está numa maluquice aqui de fuso horário, tá? Então a gente está aqui um pouquinho mais cedo porque o Andy está aí no Reino Unido 3 horas a mais que a gente está numa agenda um pouco especial aqui para falar com esse grande músico aí britânico, aí atualizar os assuntos em relação ao Darknet, e também aí a gente vai falar um pouquinho do passado do Andy, que é bastante bacana, né? Andy, welcome!
Hi guys, nice to finally meet you. I've watched a few of the shows anyway, so always good. So hopefully it'll be good.
Great.
Christian, bem-vindo, Christian, meu amigo Christian. Você tá bem?
Tranquilo.
Tranquilo e sereno. Vamos lá, então, galera. Participem, né? Eu sei que é um horário meio... né? Eu acho que é melhor a gente convocar o público lá de Londres.
Também, né? People in London,
Fica
if you watch...
aí.
To the guys in London there, okay, and overseas, just press the bell button there, give your like too, subscribe if you want, and give us a support too, because we are really working to have the best thing done here. Vai lá, Jorge.
Let's go! Eu vou começar falando do Darknet.
Certo.
Aí uma banda que vem aí com o passar do tempo evoluindo, tá? 2020 aí lançou seu álbum de estreia e agora está preparado aí um EP para início de 2022. Pede para o Andy, faz favor, atualizar para a gente, Christian, como é que tá o Darknet, as expectativas com esse EP e como é que estão as coisas com a banda nesse momento aí, ainda o mundo tentando ensaiar aí uma volta à normalidade.
So, what are the expectations for the new Darknet EP, and what are your expectations for next year with this new COVID wave and things like that? Hope next year we can have full concerts again, but what are your expectations for the next year and for this new EP? Like, what can we expect from the band for this new EP that is going to be released next year?
Right then, the Darkened More Than the Light EP. It's been released already on digital download. The EP vinyl was supposed to be released in March next year, but we've just received notification that it's all complete now. So I've got a feeling in the next few weeks the vinyl is actually getting posted out to the people that bought it. The backstory to the EP really was that over lockdown, the last 18 months, obviously, I had an issue with my shoulder, so had to take a year off basically, or I had a lot of physiotherapy. So it all started off working. Basically, we started work on the second album for Darkened.
Great.
My shoulder, I had an issue with my shoulder, so I had to take a bit of time off or slow everything down. Then a few other members, Gord, especially had a few family problems. He had a few issues, personal problems as well. He just had to take time off, and at the same time, other members of the band sort of had some personal problems as well. So what we basically did was last year, earlier this year, we just made a decision to take a bit of time off basically and leave everything until everybody was in the right place to move forward with it. That basically, we got to that point, I don't know, maybe about 2 or 3 months ago now, autumn time this year. But then obviously the way that any kind of releases work, it's not basically going to be released now, the album, until latter part of 2022. So basically the EP is a sort of like stopgap really between the last album that was released in September 2020, and the next album, which should be released hopefully sometime in 2022. Now, there's a bit of information on that. We're just at the point where Dan Swano is just finishing off the mix of the second album, and it is sounding very good. It's
Great.
Amazing. What I'll do is when I've finished, I'll send you one of the tracks over so you can have a listen to it. It's really good. But yeah, so really, that's where the EP fits in. It's a stopgap to sort of like really keep us in the light, you know, not sort of limelight, but give a bit of interest to people. So the question of how do I see 2022 happening out with all this COVID and shows, that kind of stuff? Well, at the moment, we're like the UK are struggling at the moment. We're just trying to sort of like get as many people completely vaccinated against this new variant that we've got, this Omicron or whatever it's called, which is causing major problems at the moment. So at the moment, we're going backwards a little bit. We're all having to wear masks in shops, and if you go out, you know, on public transport. And now they're just bringing in that you've got to have negative. You've got to have a positive. You've got to basically have a negative test to be able to go to sporting events now as well. So really,
At the same here.
I'm hoping that everything will get back to normal and we can carry on doing shows. But at the moment, it's a bit touch and go.
Yeah, it's a little bit delicate the situation here too.
Yeah.
We are also the same situation, like wearing masks and vaccine cards that you have to show when you want to enter to a small concert or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give the audience here the information, okay? And we ask the next question. Bom, sorry, desculpe. Quanto ao EP, não. Quanto ao EP, yeah, gonna die tomorrow. No. Quanto ao EP, o EP já está pronto. Ele supostamente era para ser lançado em março, talvez saia um pouquinho antes porque já está pronto, né? Eles estão gravando um álbum novo, né? O sucessor do álbum de 2020, né? Porque o primeiro álbum lá 2020 e EP e agora EP. E aí vem o segundo álbum, que inclusive está sendo mixado pelo Dance One, né? Então, tipo, vem uma coisa boa pela frente aí. As questões de show, por enquanto, lá tá na mesma situação que aqui, né? Tipo, estão usando máscara para ir nas lojas, essas coisas assim. Também tem que apresentar cartão de vacina, né? Ou teste negativo. Então, por enquanto tá complicado. A banda também, cada um tá com problemas pessoais, coisa e tal, que tá atrasando um pouco também. Mas ele espera que ano que vem já volte um pouquinho ao normal as coisas, né? Já tem shows. O EP é para sair logo, né? Talvez antes de março. E eles já estão aí, né, trabalhando nesse sucessor do primeiro álbum, né? Que é o mais esperado aí. Então, tipo, as expectativas são bastante, né? Ele ainda tá com um problema no ombro, né? Que ele espera que resolva rápido, legal, assim, né? Mas a galera ainda tá... Tem alguns problemas ainda atravancando um pouco a evolução da banda, assim, mas tá tudo normal, dentro do possível. É normal, né? A gente sabe como é que é isso aí, ok?
E, Christian, você quer ir aí? Ou eu tenho várias aqui pro Andy. Tu tem aí?
Pode perguntar, depois eu pergunto as minhas mais para o final, que é relacionado a outras coisas.
Eu queria entender como se deu aí a saída dele do Memoriam, enfim, se ele está buscando novas sonoridades, enfim, explorar outros tipos de som, o que levou ele a se dedicar exclusivamente ao Darknet.
Okay. Georgine is asking about your decision to leave Memoriam and start Darknet. What happened there, and why did you decide to experiment new sounds and things like that?
Right. I mean, basically, when myself and Hemper decided to start the Darkened project, as you know, I was already in. I mean, it was probably 2017, 2018. To be honest, at that time, I had a few, I suppose in a way, if I'm completely honest, I had a few issues with Memoriam, I suppose, and I just made a decision to call it a day, really, and concentrate on the first Darkened album. I mean, really, I mean that's all I can say about it. I mean, obviously, then I rejoined Memoriam for, I don't know, probably about another year. But then, obviously, once lockdown came in, I think that was I think I did the last show with Memoriam in start of March. Sort of like 2020. And then obviously everything locked down, and sort of like during the summer, my shoulder started giving me a lot of trouble. And it was a case that I really couldn't, at that point in time, I really couldn't play the drums to the point where I needed to, really. I was in that much pain.
Yeah, it's kind of impossible to make a concert.
Yeah, but what happened was, whereas I made the decision to sort of like walk away from Memoriam, because, like I say, I couldn't do the album, I wanted it basically. I was still able to just work away at the Darkened stuff, because obviously all the Darkened stuff I do on my eKit, my electronic computer. The computer, electronic drums. So I could do it all in little bits, basically, and sort of like, so. I mean, that was the basic reason. I mean, when we first started Darkened, I was happy with Memoriam, so that's when I left. The first time. So, but and then the second time I left was literally due to my shoulder, really. But yeah, that'd be it, really. Yeah.
So, is there any chance to go back to Memoriam and play some concerts again?
No. I don't. Nope. I've got other stuff to do now. Anyway, like I say, I do. I'm doing this. I'm doing Darkened, and I've also got another project that I've been working on for about the last 4 or 5 months. Which is Death Collector with a few friends, which basically Mick Carey from Zylot Cult band over in Ireland, Kieran Scott, who's Ash and Crown, which is one of the Birmingham death metal bands, and then a guy over in America, Jason Walton. I think you might know him from Agalloch. Sort of like atmospheric death metal band. Well, atmospheric band he used to be in many years ago. And then I'm also doing a bit of an ambient project as well, and that's with Jason as well. Just because I've always wanted to do it, and I decided to do it, but I just keep myself quite busy with new stuff. I've got to a point now, anyway, where I really don't want to. Go back to Memoriam anyway. They're happy what they're doing. I'm happy what I'm doing. So it's the same with Bolt Thrower as well. I mean, whereas I'm glad of the time I had in Bolt Thrower, but I wouldn't go back to Bolt Thrower. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just keep moving forward. That's what I try and do now.
Yes, I got a point. Okay, gonna give the information here. Bom, quanto ao Memoriam, né, ele falou ali, né, que ele teve alguns problemas, assim, não pretende voltar, não tocaria com a banda, porque também ele já estava tendo problemas lá justamente pelo ombro dele, né, que ele tá com um problema no ombro, então isso aí meio que impedia ele. Naquela época do Memoriam ele já estava começando o projeto do Darknet também, mas o Darknet era mais fácil para ele porque tem bateria eletrônica, então era mais fácil, foi tudo feito por computador, né, ninguém estava tocando junto ali, então tipo, ele tinha uma habilidade mais fácil, né, e aí como ele falou ali, quanto memória, ele prefere seguir para frente, né? Ele já fez o que tinha que estar. Ele tem outros projetos, tem inclusive um projeto meio ambiental que ele está fazendo, né? Meio música ambiente, assim. Então, porque ele quer fazer, né? Que tipo, quanto a voltar para memória, é a mesma coisa quanto o Bolt Tower. Não voltaria, não. Porque para ele gosta de seguir em frente, né? Tem esses bons momentos ali, a banda, né, é o que foi, mas a tendência dele é seguir em frente, né? Ele não voltaria para o Memoriam, ele não voltaria a tocar com o Bolt Tower também, justamente por causa dessa questão de seguir em frente, assim. Ele tem vários outros projetos de death metal aí que quer botar pra frente aí, coisa e tal. Então, tipo, né, outros fatores também que o Covid também meio que detonou um pouco a expectativa da banda, coisa e tal. Então, né, o negócio é seguir em frente. Pode falar.
Então, já que ele mencionou o Bolt Tower, né, ele gravou aí uma sequência desde o primeiro álbum, né, até o For Victory, e a gente não pode ignorar que são álbuns extremamente, né,
Assim.
essenciais e acabaram se tornando referências se tratando de death metal britânico. Né? Então, como é, né, a gente percebe agora, eu como fã, eu percebo um certo desconforto de quando se fala em Bolt Thrower, né? É bom lembrar que a gente conversou com o Cal, né? Conversou com o Cal aqui no Heavy Culture. E também eu percebo no Andy né? Eu não sei se é uma impressão, né? Parece que quando fala em Bolt Thrower, né? Pra gente aqui que é fã, né? A gente olha para esses álbuns, né? Os 4, 5 primeiros discos assim são fantásticos né? E será que isso é uma... O que causa tanto desconforto em relação ao Bolt Thrower? Não sei se desconforto é a palavra correta.
Não, acho que não é isso, assim. Até dá para reformular a pergunta
faz uma, mas é mais ou menos nesse sentido, porque que o pessoal não, né, não, de certa forma aí gosta do passado, mas não quer deixar o Bolt Thrower no passado, talvez seja mais ou menos isso, Christian.
Okay, George is trying to formulate a new question without any offense, okay, about Bolt Thrower and your past in Bolt Thrower, because you were part of the classic lineup. Also, you were very important for the foundation of the British death metal, which is like Bolt Thrower was one of the main bands there, and you were part in the classic albums like In Battle There's No Law, Realm of Chaos, For Victory, and sometimes people say that I don't know, it's part of the media. You know, it's different when you have the opportunity to talk and chat to the person like face to face, like we're doing, because most of the time magazines tend to talk to the person and publish what they want. You know, like he doesn't like the band, he doesn't want to talk to the band because they have arguments and things like that. So asking about the past of Bolt Thrower, which is something that for us is impossible not to ask. If you don't want to talk, okay, no problem. But how do you see the past of Bolt Thrower, sorry, and in your life, and if it contributed to more things for the future?
Well, I mean, if completely honest, I mean, Bolt Thrower sort of like made me really as the drummer that I am, I suppose. You know, I mean, it's a bit of a weird one, really, because if you go back to 1986, when when Bolt Thrower first formed, there wasn't really anything. It wasn't really death metal or any kind of scene around. It was all punk and hardcore, and then you had sort of like metal, speed metal, that kind of thing. But everything sort of around 80, 85, 86. When 84, 85, 86, you had bands like, Slayer coming across, Exodus, all those kind of bands. And really, it was, for me personally, coming from more of a punk and hardcore background, it was just this sort of like big slap in the face, really. It was something completely new. I mean, I remember going to see Slayer in 1984 and, Metallica in 1984 as well. And, Sodom, Voivod, all those bands in the early days. And it was just when you're younger, you just want to be part of something, because it was just amazing, really. And really, that's where I think, I mean, me talking from my own perspective, I think that's what Baz and Gav, when they got the idea of doing Bolt Thrower, was, they wanted to, do that kind of thing, like Slayer, that kind of thing, But really, as always, when a band gets together, especially the four of us, because at the time there was Baz, Gav, Alan, and myself. although we had an idea of what we wanted to do, and we had some songs in a way, we had to sort of like learn what we were doing, really. Because I mean, I'd never played double bass drum before. I was just sort of like D beat and all that kind of stuff. Playing along to Discharge and that kind of thing. But I mean, really, it made me as the person I am. It's sort of like hopefully that I'll always be remembered for throw a sound, from the first 5 albums. So it's a hard one, really. But I mean, it's a great experience. But also as well for me, the last 2 years in bolt throw were quite hard for me because I was having a lot of personal problems, which I won't go into. But so okay. I was very sort of I was very sort of like diverted by sort of like personal issues, which probably ended up being the reason why I sort of like left, really. Yes. So being a band like Bolt Thrower, absolutely brilliant, loads of highs, but also for me quite a lot of lows as well, which sort of ultimately resulted in me leaving. And when I left Bolt Thrower, I really just wanted to not be part of it anymore, really, and sort of like just got on with my life, and and then 20 years later, sort of like sort of got a chance to come back into it, really, which sort of like quite happy about.
Great. Well, we're gonna give the Portuguese version here. Falando do Bolt Thrower ali na parte do death metal ali, ele tá falando que no começo ali, 84, 86, o Bolt Thrower era mais uma banda de hardcore com influência de bandas de hardcore punk do que uma banda de death metal. Eles gostavam bastante de solo, coisa e tal. Ele também salienta que ele não tocava uma bateria assim muito bem. Era mais porque eles tinham aquela vibe punk mesmo assim, e era o que ele, o Gavi e o Bass queriam fazer, né? Uma coisa mais ligada ao hardcore, solo, essas coisas. Eles gostavam bastante de Slayer, Exodus também, né? Tipo, mesma época ali. Então, tipo, ele não considera tanto death metal, assim, né? Ele considera mais ligado ao hardcore mesmo, assim, porque eles têm essa raiz punk deles também, na Inglaterra, né? Quanto aos álbuns ali da metade da carreira do Bolt Thrower, ali, ele também gosta bastante, assim, mas eles foram álbuns mais problemáticos, já tinham tido problemas entre eles, coisa e tal, coisa que ele não quer entrar em detalhe, assim, né? Que acabou fazendo com que ele saísse da banda mesmo, assim. Daí, tipo, ele não pretende voltar pra banda, justamente por essa questão, assim, tipo, né, ele saiu da banda. Então, tipo, a banda foi importante para ele, tem todos esses anos junto com a banda, assim, parte do amadurecimento, mas também tem essa coisa. Oh, night tagging! My cat was walking over here. I don't know where she is.
Sorry, yeah.
Então, tipo, tem essa parte, assim, ele considera o Bolt Thrower importante, né, mas ele não voltaria porque é coisa, né, que ele já fez.
Mas a gente percebe nas falas, tá? Então a gente, essa percepção, a gente percebe que tem um rancinho tem aí.
Tem, como ele disse, ele saiu da banda porque ele já tinha alguns problemas pessoais, né, os quais ele não quis falar, não vai falar, e que culminou com o final da banda, né, e depois de 20 anos também não tocaria, porque que nem ele falou, é pra frente, né. Pode fazer outra pergunta, Josh.
Não, acho que só pra gente encurtar, né, queria pegar um gancho das influências do Darknet. Se ele buscou incorporar, no passado, né, essa fusão, essa origem no hardcore, ou se ele está buscando, se a banda está buscando inspiração em algo mais moderno, ou é um mix do antigo e do novo, mais ou menos essa linha.
Okay, about Darknet, George's asking about your influences, like if it is like more linked to hardcore or something new, or a mix of both hardcore, old hardcore punk, and new things.
Yeah, I mean, back when I was younger, it was all sort of like punk rock. I grew up in the times of Crass and Discharge, and UK Subs and the Exploited, all that kind of stuff. Even Blondie. so that's the sort of like stuff that I grew up with, really. I mean, obviously as well, I had older brothers and sisters, so there was albums around the house, sort of like Bloodwind Pig, all that kind of stuff, and a lot of David Bowie, sort of like, so that was sort of like the first sort of music that I listened to in the late 70s, really, and early 80s. And then as you went along, obviously, like I mentioned, you had sort of like bands like Swords, all those kind of bands that I really got into, and but also at the time I was into a lot of US hardcore as well, like bands like Half Off, DRI, so I've always had quite a varied sort of like listening selection. I mean, even to the extent now of I like to listen to sort of like a lot of ambient jazz. I just like to listen to lots of stuff, really. Sort of. But I've never been one of these people that's just sort of like said, right, I'm listening to punk rock and that's it. I've always tried to listen to a lot of things, and really, you can get a lot of influences from it as well, because just because somebody's not playing 100 miles an hour, somebody's not playing, distorted guitars, there's still little things that you can hear in the music that you can take and put in what you play as well.
Yeah, great. Gonna give the info here. Ele fala ali que ele cresceu numa cidade basicamente cercada por punk rock, né? Tipo, faz parte da infância dele, né? De charge, essas coisas assim, ó, que ele mencionou, né? E que foi bastante importante até no Bolt Tower, né? No Bolt Tower eles já ouviam bastante outras coisas misturadas também, então ele considera isso importante, assim, ele gosta bastante de jazz ambiental também, ele escuta bastante o rock americano também, então ele diz que não precisa escutar alguma coisa com o cara tocando a velocidade da luz ou as guitarras esmerilhando tudo, né? Na verdade tu vai ali, escuta o que tu gosta e é legal, dá pra, tu sente isso na música, então na verdade o Darknet tem um pouco disso também, assim, né? Eles têm várias influências, ele não é um cara limitado que só escuta punk rock, só escuta uma coisa. Então, tipo, isso é importante, né, pra fundação, assim, do som em questão, assim, né? Eu quero fazer uma pergunta para ele aqui, se tu permitir agora. Okay, how about Death Collector? Are you still doing anything with the band? It's on hold?
No. It's the tale of COVID and lockdown. Basically, what happened was myself and Mick have got. I think we've got about five songs now sorted for that. We had the 3 songs for the EP organised for around August. Basically, what happened was Kieran, the vocalist, Kieran Scott from Ash and Crown, he played with Ash and Crown at Bloodstock, and then proceeded to get COVID. So, he had to take a few weeks off. But then what happened was he had a few complications. So he had continuous chest infections. So effectively, he just had to rest his voice, basically. And then it's just been a lot of little niggly things, but we are at the point now. The drums are finished with it. The guitars are finished. The vocals are more or less finished. So we've just got the bass tracks to do. So, but I mean, it is going to get done, but we're just taking our time on it, really. But I'm hoping to get it done early 2022.
Great.
Because basically, I want to take Death Collector out and do some live shows. That's if we can actually do it due to restrictions, basically.
Yeah. Bom, I'm gonna give the info here em português. Bom, sobre o Death Collector, eles ainda continuam trabalhando, né? Mas tá cheio de restrição por causa do Covid, coisa e tal. Um deles pegou Covid também. Então deu vários problemas aí que acabou não sendo lançado. Eles já tem 4 sons, já estão praticamente com Death Collector novo gravado, só faltam as linhas de baixo, né? E ele quer logo botar a banda pra tocar, assim, né? Fazer show, coisa e tal. Aí ele espera que em 2022 eles já consigam liberar material novo do Death Collector, né? Então, tipo, só o problema é que a banda tá meio atrapalhada aí por questões de restrição, Covid, essas coisas, né? Que agora são normais, né? Então, tipo, a banda tá ali, eles estão trabalhando, né? Já tá com metade da coisa pronta e logo tá na ativa aí. Pode falar, Jorge.
Então, legal, bacana. Eu queria falar sobre a formação, né, do Darknet. Inclusive, a gente recebeu aqui no Heavy Culture o Tobias, né? O baixista do Darknet, ex-dismember, né? Então, como é lidar aí com tipo um baixista eu não lembro se o Tobias está na Suécia, tu lembra, Christian?
Acho que tá.
Então, como é que é essa questão aí, se o Darknet, né, a intenção é de juntar, em relação aos membros hoje, assim, eles estão bastante integrados ou ainda está um pouco separado? Como é que está isso?
Well, George is asking about the lineup of Darknet, okay? Like, because everyone is in a different part of the world. So it's like, how is it to be playing in a band, a side project like that? And do you plan to get together for concerts and things like that?
It's, to be honest, being in Darkened is quite simple, really. It's because we've got all the technology to work over the internet, and everybody is quite, sort of like savvy on using, your PC and whatever. It's worked quite easily. As in, will we ever get together? I just think the logistics of it are a little bit too much for us to ever play a show. But also on top of that, when we first started, myself and Hemper sort of like had a bit of a chat about it, and both decided that we wanted to keep it as a project, and wanted to, we didn't want to play live shows. It's a shame because the music we do is absolutely brilliant, but I just think realistically, we if we were going to make it work, we'd either have to do festivals, or we'd have to do a big, European tour or US tour. And to be honest, speaking from my own, myself, I haven't really got the time to do that. Really, I've got commitments, family, work, and really, it's just a bit of fun, really. I've never really expected Darkened to become a massive band. It'd be great if they did, but for me, it's just a way of getting my creativity out there, really.
Yeah. Ok. Bom, ali do Darknet ele fala que como projeto, graças à tecnologia, hoje é bem fácil tu fazer isso, né? Mesmo eles estando em partes diferentes do mundo aí. A tecnologia, a internet ajuda bastante. Mas quando ele e o Rampa começaram o projeto, eles já tinham decidido que a banda não iria fazer show, né? O que eles sentem um pouco de vergonha, assim, mas é por questões mais de ele tem compromissos, ele tem família, essas coisas assim. E ele já tá meio cansado disso também. E tem outras bandas também ali. Então, tipo, o Darknet é uma banda que eles não esperavam, assim, esse retorno maciço, desculpe, né? E é uma banda que foi feita para ser um projeto mesmo, assim. Então eles têm essa coisa, assim, eles montaram uma banda para isso. Mas deu essa vibe, assim, não esperada, assim, né, da galera gostar bastante do som, assim, né, tipo, atrair bastante os fãs também, né, mas a princípio, né, a gente não vai ver ao vivo por essas questões, assim, deles serem ocupados. Todo mundo na banda tem outra banda, todo mundo na banda tem seus compromissos, né, no projeto, no caso, né, o Tobias toca em 2 bandas, né, o Empa tá lá no Canadá, acho que é. Então, tipo, isso dificulta bastante, assim, para fazer com que fiquem juntos. E que ele mesmo falou, por ele, assim, né, a respeito dele mesmo, assim, isso é meio cansativo, assim, por causa de família, essas coisas, né, não é mais como era antes, né. Pode fazer a pergunta, Jorge.
Entendemos, eu acho que já vamos se encaminhando, né?
Sim.
Eu queria perguntar para ele algo bem particular aí, qual é qual o melhor álbum do punk hardcore inglês, na visão dele, e qual é o melhor álbum que ele gravou com o Bolt Thrower? São duas bem particulares.
Okay, George has two questions for you. Okay, it's like about yourself. In your opinion, what is the best British punk rock album, and what is the best Bolt Thrower album for you?
Right. God, that's a hard question about the punk rock one. Do you know what? I've probably got two that come to mind now. Right. My first album would probably be Feed of the 5,000 Crass. That's a classic album. I love that album. And probably album wise would be, well, maybe I'm just trying to think which. Well, any Discharge record up until Brave New World. Yeah, which I still can remember actually when that came out, and it was just like, what has happened to Discharge? But yeah, but to just throw an oddball in as well. If you want what I class as from my early days of punk rock, you're probably looking at something like Generation X as well. From the very early days, Generation X, absolutely brilliant as well. Right, Bolt Thrower albums. I would say my favourite is The Fourth Crusade. Just because it's just a great album, that is absolutely brilliant. The best production Bolt Thrower album for my time would be For Victory, because I still believe that album could, if you released For Victory today, that would still be classed as a great album. The production on it, I think, is really second to none. Then you'd have to go, I would say, Realm of Chaos, because it's just it was just a great album to be involved in, basically, due to the with the Games Workshop tie up, and it was great at that time going to visit Games
I love that
Workshop.
album.
It was an amazing place back then. It was something completely different. Then I would say War Master, which for me, I always classed War Master as sort of like a sort of like crossing point between early Bolt Thrower and what Bolt Thrower you would class as today. I'd imagine, that sort of like, sort of like, but really I didn't listen to War Master for probably about 20 years because I never really got on with that album. But when I actually listened to it after 20 years, I'd forgotten how many good tracks were on it. So, but then obviously my least favourite, which to be honest, the only reason it's my least favourite is because of the production. Is In Battle, really, which basically it's a great album. It's for its time, it was something completely different. But the recording was just sort of like, basically when we went to the studio, Loco Studio, Vinyl Solution came. They sent this sort of like, many years ago they used to record it on the the 2-inch. And they came with one of those, and basically they'd already used it, I think, for a Stupids album and a Hard-Ons album as well. So basically what they've done is they've just recorded on it, then deleted it, recorded on it and deleted it. So we had a sort of like a third generation recording tape, basically, which I think affected the sound anyway. But yeah, I mean, it's a great album, but I just think I would have, over the years in Bolt Thrower, I wish we'd re-recorded In Battle.
Yeah, Battle was like great sound too. It's like very like great songs and things like that.
Yeah. It's very mud. I think it's very muddy, but there again, what you've got to put into context is that we didn't have any. The equipment we had was just really cheap and cheerful. You know, we were just starting really. You know, and you have to build these things up. But every album was a step forward to the band that everybody loves today, I suppose.
Yeah, it's like one thing I would say about In Battle is the fact that hey, this guy never listened to Discharge or GBH. That was
GBH. I mean, absolutely brilliant band. I love GBH. Saw them many times back years ago. Yeah. Brilliant band.
Great. Fala, Jorge.
Não, faz um resuminho aí que depois a gente encerra.
Bom, I'm gonna speak in Portuguese to the audience here. Bom, fazendo um resumo ali do que ele falou sobre os álbuns favoritos, né? Ele gosta bastante do Generation X, assim como a banda punk, mas se ele tivesse que citar alguma coisa, é qualquer álbum do GBH. Do Discharge, sorry. Desculpe. Não GBH. É que eu gosto de GBH pra caralho. E Discharge também. Mas o Discharge. Quanto aos álbuns favoritos do Bolt Thrower ali, né, ele tem os motivos para gostar de cada álbum, né, o For Victory, porque para ele é a melhor produção até hoje, né, ele gosta da produção bastante, o The Fourth Crusade é o favorito dele, que é um álbum mais pesado, assim, mais cadenciado, bem diferente dos outros, né, o que ele menos gosta, né, é o War Master, né, que ele é digamos assim, um divisor de águas do Bolt Thrower, né, tipo, do Bolt Thrower antigo pro Bolt Thrower novo, né? O Realm of Chaos ele gosta bastante também, né? Apesar de a gravação não ser aquela coisa assim, oh meu Deus, mas ele tem todo aquele envolvimento com a Games Workshop, né? A capa, então isso foi uma parte bastante importante, uma parte bem legal dele. E o Embattled There's No Law, que ele acha um álbum excelente, porém a produção é aquilo, né? Não dava para fazer muita coisa, né? Não tinha muito recurso na época. É barulhento, até tava falando com ele ali, que a primeira vez que eu escutei, os caras nunca escutaram de Discharge nem de BH na vida, né? e é uma coisa que ele gosta bastante disso também, né? Porque eles eram novos ali, estavam com gás, então é diferente, assim. Mas cada álbum do Bolt Thrower, ele salienta que é um passo à frente, né? O Bolt Thrower não tem. E realmente é difícil de tu achar no Bolt Thrower um álbum igual ao outro, né? Não tem. Vai mudando a sequência, assim, isso é interessante. Então, para ele, achar o favorito é difícil justamente por causa disso, né? Mas o War Master é um álbum que ele faz 20 anos que ele não ouve. Então é o menos favorito dele mesmo. Assim.
Deu para perceber. E só para finalizar, né? Tá bacana demais o papo, mas enfim.
Sim.
O que ele atribui, né, lá na Inglaterra, assim, várias bandas nasceram do punk, mas tomaram direcionamentos diferentes, né? O Bolt Thrower, o Napalm Death, o Godflesh, o Cathedral, o Carcass. Então teve várias ramificações que nasceram do mesmo gênese, de uma mesma fonte, né? E as bandas não se copiavam, existiam estilos diferentes. E o que ele atribui esse período fértil nem é metal, né? Da música pesada britânica.
Well, George was asking about the hardcore punk rock influence in U.S. In England. Stupid. So it's like most of the bands in England had and have this punk rock hardcore influence, like Cathedral, Napalm Death, Bolt Thrower, but they are pretty different in sound. Carcass too. Like how you see this? Like you have basically the same root, hardcore and punk rock, but each band has a different kind of sound. Each band follow their own path, like how do you see that?
Right, you probably got you can probably place it down to especially around Birmingham as well, where you've got Napalm, you've got that sort of like cathedral over in Coventry, Bolt Thrower was sort of like Coventry, Leamington and Birmingham. But a lot of it was to do with the Mermaid in Birmingham. Basically, it was sort of like I suppose you can class it now as a legendary pub that we all used to go to. It was a music venue run by Daz Russell, and basically every week there would be, you could have bands like DRI, later on you'd have the Cardiacs, all that kind of stuff. It was just a melting pot of different music. But you used to have all the bands, sort of like Anti-Sect, all those kind of bands would play there. And that's where everybody used to meet up, really. I mean, like, when you'd go out there, you'd have sort of like Barney from Napalm, and then you'd have all the early Napalm, Mick, and sort of like, all the early guys from Napalm all together. But what everybody did was, at that time, we all decided, obviously we all wanted to be in bands, but no, we all ended up just sort of like trying different things, like sort of like when Justin left, Napalm, he came back with something completely different and explosive as well with Godflesh, so everybody just sort of came from different walks of life, but there was a meeting point of, like say, the Mermaid, and that was where everybody got together. Everybody decided to be in bands. Obviously, people like Mick, and the guys from Heresy, they probably cornered the super fast drumming sort of thing. So everybody went away and did something different, and that's just how it worked, really. And everybody found their own sound, and it's worked really well. Everybody seems to have done very well out of it. But really, like I say, the main focal point for all the around the Midlands was the Mermaid. It was an amazing place.
Yeah, great. Bom, speaking in Portuguese. Bom, ele fala ali que eles têm, né? Todos eles têm essa parte punk, assim, mas também o que acontecia é que lá era um caldeirão de coisas diferentes, né? Então tava todo mundo querendo fazer o seu próprio som, as bandas tinham essas influências, mas cada um tava seguindo o seu caminho, né? O Napalm tava fazendo coisa diferente, mas a parte da raiz ali é porque todos eles se encontravam realmente no mesmo lugar, né? Trocavam ideias junto, mas cada um queria ter a sua própria banda, né? Então, tipo, eles não estavam se influenciando um pelo outro, era diferente a coisa, né? Então, tipo, como ele falou, eles ouviam todo que tipo de banda, até o Cadillacs, coisas que não são muito ligadas assim ao que a gente chamaria de death metal, coisa e tal. Então isso faz a diferença também, né? Mas o que ele salienta é o Mermaid, que é o lugar onde eles se encontravam lá, né? E que fez com que cada um seguisse também a sua própria direção, assim, foi o fato de que eles realmente queriam estar em bandas e cada um queria fazer o seu próprio som mesmo, assim. Mesmo tendo as mesmas influências, claro, mas cada um ali queria fazer uma coisa mais que outra, assim, então, tipo, foi bem legal. Ok?
Cara, eu acho que é papo bom, né? Passar rápido.
Sim.
Deixar um espaço pro Andy aí, deixar alguma mensagem, expectativas, e a gente está torcendo aí para que o Darknet decole, né? Mais ou menos isso.
Acho que já decolou, né? Isso aqui não tem fazer show. Okay. So, well, thank you very much for the opportunity to talk to you, okay? And we would like you to give like a statement for the fans about Darknet or the next year, okay? What we can expect for it. We hope Darknet can have more and more fans. Also, we expect something new from that collector. I expect.
Okay, so it's really good. Death Collector stuff's really good.
Yeah. So, like, feel free to leave your message before you go, okay? And it was an honor to talk to you as a great fan of both Trower and also the other bands that you played together. Okay, also a great fan of hardcore punk rock too. So thank you very much for the opportunity to chat to you today.
No, it was great. Yeah. I mean, like I say, keep an eye out for the Darkened release. Obviously, there's the EP out now. That's on Edged Circle Productions. So I think there's still some copies of the single left, and obviously you can do it on download as well. Like I say, we're just finishing off the second album now. So that will be out probably autumn 2022. Obviously, that's got the artwork again by our good friend Janjo Castellero, which absolutely brilliant artist. So check that out as well. Obviously, like I was saying as well, we've got the Death Collector stuff coming out. Hopefully spring 2022. I'm hoping to get that out, and hoping that's going to be the thing that we're going to be live get the live show as well. So hopefully we should be doing some live shows with that one. If you like death metal, if you like D-beat, Death Collector's the one for you. It's got a mixture of hardcore and death metal. So it's just what I do best, really. Obviously as well, if anybody's out there who likes a bit of ambient noise and relaxation, that kind of stuff, I'm obviously doing the cross path. So I'm just keeping busy, really. Just that's all you can do, really, over this at the moment. The last year and a half has been really hard for us all, hasn't it? So, but thanks for talking to me anyway. Like I said, I don't do very many interviews anyway. So this is probably the last one I'll do for quite a while. But everybody that tuned in and asked a few questions, unfortunately didn't get a chance to answer them. But thank you very much, and we'll hopefully talk to you soon.
Okay. It was really nice to talk to you. Gonna just talk a little bit in Portuguese here. Ok, tava falando aí sobre o Darknet e sobre o Death Collector, né? O Darknet tá lançando o single, né? Também ainda tem algumas cópias dele e também vai estar disponível para download, né? Já o Death Collector vai estar aí com um álbum novo, acredito que na primavera do ano que vem. E quem quer ouvir um death metal hardcore na veia mesmo, né? Corre aí atrás do Death Collector, que, cara, é uma puta de uma banda, cara. O som é foda. Eu tô falando por mim, assim, que eu curto bastante, assim, mas
muito bom.
Quem curte aí um deathcore aí, né, vai atrás do Death Collector, que, né, logo vai ter show também, pretendo fazer uns shows também, então vai estar bem legal, assim. Okay?
Muito bom, a gente agradece, thank you so much, Andy. E dia 18, no sábado agora, a gente tem um cara aí, né, conhecido, Dave Ingram. Pergunta para ele aí, dia 18 vai estar aqui com a gente, sábado, agenda diferente, né? Dave Ingram do Benediction conosco no Heavy Culture.
On the 18th, we are going to talk to Dave Ingram. I think you know the guy.
Have you seen the cover that me and Mick and Dave did of the Entombed Wolverine Blues we did over the lockdown? That was good fun. Dave got stuck into that, but Dave's a great bloke. He's I've been on very many tours. I've been out drinking with him, and he's always good fun to be with. So I'm sure you'll have a great interview. Don't talk about Doctor Who though.
Okay, great.
No problem.
Muito bom.
Yeah.
Galera, obrigado. Thank you so much, Andy. Obrigado,
bye. Have a good night there.
Yeah.
Acompanhe as agendas do Heavy Culture, galera.
Take care.
Yeah.
Take care. Bye.